Hi Sharon, can you access your presentation now?
I'm not sure.
I can see your presentation. We are able to see your presentation in the main screen.
So how do I, what do I need to do to see my own presentation?
So this is not your presentation. What is up on the screen right now?
I can see my own image, but not my presentation slide.
So on the top side, you will find, if it's in a full screen, then on the top side, you will find a small icon that has a presentation. You have to double click on that. Then that will expand into the center of the screen.
Sorry, I just clicked it. No, I clicked it and nothing happens. Can you still see my desktop
Yeah, we can
now?
we can see the PPT deck leading in VUCA time system from Sansu.
I can't see it myself. That's weird. So how am I going to do?
So on the right side, if you
yes,
on the right side, if you can open the control panel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
yes.
you can just say okay. If you want to re-enter this track, that's fine. I'll start by making you a panelist. I think that should help. Yeah.
Well, I see a little icon with sorry. I see a little icon next to the icon of the camera, which looks like a computer desktop. Is that the button you want me to click?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I clicked it. But I still can't see anything.
On the top right side, you'll find something called sharing. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah. Then you say show screen just below that.
It's not great right now. Let me click this button again. No.
You must be able to see the sharing option. There is a drop down right next to the top. Once
yes,
you open
I see that, but I still can't see my own slides.
Oh.
Well, how about this? If you guys can all see my slides, I don't need to see my own video. Can I just go back my slides and I'll just start?
Yeah. We can see the slide. We can see you as well. So you can turn back to the slide, and if there is any issue, then I will write you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So I'll just go back to my slides and I'm going to start. Shit, can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I'll just go back to my slides then. Sorry for the little hiccup. Good afternoon. I'm the presenter for this session. My name is Sharon Lee. As you can read, there's a small brief introduction of myself in the information that you've got. And I'm a facilitator and a team coach, a freelance team coach and facilitator living in Beijing and China. And I'm very pleased and honored to be given the opportunity to join this forum and share with every one of you some really valuable learnings I just had from translating a book which shares with all of us the wisdom from Sun Tzu. I'm not sure how many of you have heard the name Sun Tzu, but he's a very renowned strategist in China, and I hope in many other countries, especially in the domain of military. So today I'm going to share something that I learned from his teaching. So again, I will repeat my topic today is leading in VUCA time with wisdom from Sun Tzu. Now, you may get a bit curious. So why are we going to learn anything from Sun Tzu, who is actually a military figure, and what is the thing that connects him with our work, which is change and transformation and leadership? Well, let's find out together. What I want to start is trying to weave in what does leadership mean in VUCA times? The thing is quite interesting is that VUCA, although it's a military term that first emerges in the 90s, I believe, it's actually not the first time that we encounter similar situations in human history. Actually, some 2,500 years ago, we have a very VUCA time in the ancient China back then. That period of time in Chinese history is called the Warring States. It actually started from 475 BC and actually lasted 245 years. And there's a lot of similarity between the Warring States and also the state that we're having currently along the globe. If you look at all the bullet points I listed down here. So we've all seen these things, such as leaders shifted allegiance, political borders continually changed, and we see that a lot, I guess, in the Middle Eastern area. And also long-established states disappeared, like what we used to know as the Soviet Union. It disappeared like 30 years ago. And also loyalty were in doubt. That's what we can encounter almost on a daily basis. And nothing would explain VUCA better than what we have in this year, 2020, thanks to the new coronavirus. So the one outstanding thing about VUCA time is that everything is changing, and the only thing that stays constant is change itself. So what does that mean for leaders like us today? Well, it means that we no longer have enough time, information, or resources that we used to have when we are required to make decisions or craft strategies. And yet, at the same time, the pressure to do the right things would remain the same. So in this situation, leaders all around the world are actually constantly looking for new skills. And moreover, and also more important, is that leaders are looking for new ways of being so that we can still find effective actions or responses even under the most highly charged situation of conflict, and especially when conflict just emerge without prior warning. So Sun Tzu, being the great figure of his time, had written a lot of his insights, which we know as the book translated in English in the name Art of War. So most of the content I will share with you today actually comes from that book of Sun Tzu. And because we use VUCA, a military phrase, to describe our situation, so I think it might be helpful if we can look at the leadership terms or leadership situations a little bit in the terms of military phrases. Like military in leadership form can mean the energies that we apply to accomplish our goals. And leaders actually in the military background or context will be general. Actually, I will use the term a wise general a lot in the next presentation slides. And what we use to focus our energy on can be addressed as weapon. So enemies would then be the people or the situation that we want to bring around. And battle would be the conflict that occurs where things could be quite messy. And here's the important one, which is the term of victory. Victory has a whole new meaning in VUCA time. And here I would use the term victory to refer to having our goals or objective accomplished or achieved without actually fighting, by being inclusive and by benefiting the whole. So VUCA time leadership would be something as Sun Tzu used to describe it as a wise general. By wise general, Sun Tzu means someone who would grasp or master the simple rules of victory, someone who believes that effective action actually comes from the following three perspectives. First of all is the perspective of taking whole, and the second one would be understanding the nature and value of conflict and making a very skillful use of that. And the third thing a wise general would be doing is employing shi. I'll give you more details in the following charts. So this would be the key concept of a wise general. What makes a wise general? I think if you were ever encountered any stories or insights or introduction about Sun Tzu and his great work, The Art of War, you would not be, it won't be the first time that you hear his famous saying, 不战而屈人之兵, that's in Chinese, of course. And in English, it simply means victory without battle. And that is also what we call by taking whole. So if you can just read through this a few lines and just to get a little sense and a little idea about what Sun Tzu is actually talking about. So taking whole, the method of employing the military is that taking a state whole is superior, destroying it is inferior to this, and taking an army whole is superior, destroying it is inferior to this. Taking a battalion whole is superior, destroying it is inferior to this. I won't repeat line by line of the total 5 lines here, but after reading this, you probably would have some glimpse into the meaning of taking whole. Well, the background of taking whole comes from a fundamental and core and essential perspectives that Sun Tzu have about the world and our relationship with the world. And that fundamental perspective he takes is actually the interconnectedness. Sun Tzu believes everything in the world is interconnected. We are interconnected with the overall system that we are in. And in recent, although this concept of interconnectedness may sound very familiar or at home to Asians or especially Chinese, it's not the situation in the Western world. However, situations happening in the recent decades also makes it much more clearer because we see on a global level or background context, the growing phenomena of global financialing, global trade, migrations and resettlement of refugees, and also more and more clearly the climate change. So through the background and the whole big context of this, we have a stronger and stronger sense of the total interconnectedness that we are in. And with this basic perspective, it becomes natural that anybody who wants a real victory in this environment or in this world, would have no better options than to take whole. So let's take a brief look of what exactly is he talking about when he says take whole. Taking whole is essentially about including the perspectives of others in your victory. By others, we mean all the different stakeholders. And so it's not simply about bringing the other person over to your side, but also bringing him or her to something larger than either side, such as a solution that neither side envisioned at the outset of the conflict. It may sound not very fresh or something that we never heard before, because I've encountered people who asked me, so this is no different than what we know in the win-win concept in negotiation. Yes, and they're right, and you're right too. The concept of taking whole is, of course, taking all of the perspectives of the stakeholder. And there's more to that, because here, if you read the second paragraph of this taking whole, it's about bringing something bigger than either side. And what does it mean to a leader or a leadership role? It means one of the following three things. First of all, when you take that perspective, we are almost like naturally compelled when we're facing a situation of conflict to first know rather than fight, so that we can bring about solutions or options without really asserting aggressive power over the other party. That's what he means by victory without battling. And this is the real kind of victory that Sun Tzu is talking about. And how is this possible? I mean, this taking whole perspective. And Sun Tzu also point out that it naturally follows when we take a very appreciative view of the other side. And also it includes taking an appreciation about life as it is, taking appreciation of opposition, resistance, obstacles even, and also conflict, of course. So it's not about bringing you on my side so that I can win the deal or whatever. It's about how we can include all our side and find a brand new solution that is not polarized. So it requires leaders or leadership role to have always, almost at all times, a larger perspective of looking at things. And this larger perspective actually contains two aspects. It's time and space. Space is like what we just talked about, to take on more perspectives than your own. And time is to think about how the impact will be, how long it would impact in the future. So you're not making a victory that is only benefiting a shorter term goal, but rather a longer term goal. And that also include the adversaries, your opponent's idea or opposite side's idea. And it also must also be considered is our own hopes and our own fear in that matter. So talking about this is a bit dull and boring. So let's see if we can have some examples of taking whole. Yes, the examples I will give you is actually when conflict is arising and a leadership role is required to work with it or deal with it. I will first share a story from a colleague coach of mine. Her name is Tina, and she works in Shanghai. She's OD director for a international company, and they have a Korea a branch office in Korean, and she got a request to handle something like almost a strike in one of their R&D centers in Korea, because 80% of the staff in the R&D office said that we will resign. We don't like our new country manager, and my friend Tina was asked to deal with it. So go and settle it. And Tina is a very experienced coach, and she understands some core approaches of dealing with conflict. And one of the things, her reaction or response to the strike sort of request is actually very much in line with Sun Tzu's teaching about taking whole and understand what is it the conflict is about. So she had a sort of a plan and wanted to do a workshop that bring everybody to the bigger picture or bigger objectives. But just before he started it, she changed her mind, because when she listened to herself and she listening to all the R&D workers there, she realized there is something that has been unaddressed for a long time. There's a need, there's a voice that cries out that we need to be listened. And so she take the chance and changed totally her plan. So she didn't do the workshop. She just invite everybody for an interview, and she just listened to what they have to say. So this connects to the understanding of the concept of conflict. Conflict is, in Sun Tzu's idea and in the perspective of taking whole, is actually an inevitable byproduct of the interconnectedness that we just talked about. So on the contrary of seeing conflict as a threat or an obstacle, an enemy that we have to battle with, Sun Tzu suggested conflict is actually a valuable message about what needs to be tending to. So the R&D colleagues of Tina, they are just simply putting out an unaddressed needs, because before Nina ever visited them, nobody actually listened to what their idea was about their work. And how they think the different roles can work together and help each other and support each other. And Tina was the only person who did that for them in a long period of time. So that strike was handled properly, and actually they only got 2 or 3 people who finally resigned, and also they found a way to work with the new country manager. So it was a happy ending, let's say, but it couldn't be achieved without Tina being able to see from this perspective. So it also, and Tina's story also tells us like conflict, because it is a product of interconnectedness, it can often be creative, and in being creative, it helps shaking up what needs to be shaken up. There was collected information before, not surfaced, unmet requirements before, and only when we take the position of taking whole, and only when we actually see the value in conflict, can we find creative and new ways to deal with difficult situations like that. So as we say, leadership in VUCA time needs to be this wise general that we say understand taking whole and also basic value and appreciate when conflict situation emerges, and also wise general find his victory in doing three of the following things: knowing, employing sure, and finding victory. Knowing is actually get to understand the things that make up the whole environment, and then you start to range different forces, dynamics in a way that all of its power becomes available, and that is what been described as employing sure. Don't worry about the English word sure, because there's more coming after this one. And when you've done that, you can act when a victorious moment present itself. And that's what we mean by finding victory. So let's see what it looks like in reality. Knowing may sound very familiar to us because we all know what knowing is about, and further than that, we know we as leaders, we all have accumulated a lot of knowledge. However, in Sun Tzu's context, in his book, when he said the wise general seeks effective action through knowing, he actually means something slightly different than the knowing that we are familiar with. So knowing in Sun Tzu's idea is seeing the situation clearly, and also beyond the bias and limitations of the algorithm of our minds employ to process the overwhelming amount of data that makes up daily life. So that's one part of knowing he means. And the other part that Sun Tzu said by knowing is discerning the elements and the patterns in the system, including oneself, and using both intellect and intuition to discover pathways to effective action. So what was the difference that you see from here? The knowing that he meant versus the knowing that we usually do. So there's a very important difference that actually Sun Tzu means, is that knowing is something like a work in progress rather than the knowledge that we most often talked about, which is more about a done deal. It's achieved. I have acquired knowledge. So that's the first difference. The second difference is actually knowing requires more than just using the rational mind that we're very much used to, but also to summon and to involve the whole body, including our intuition, to solve the problem. Like the Tina story I just shared now, she doesn't use only her knowledge about how to do an interview or a workshop, but she listened to her intuition, to her sensing when she talked to the R&D colleagues. And together, she put them into a new response, fresh response to what the people is acquiring. So it will be a very full person way of knowing. And this full person approach would actually allow us to arrive at a very accurate appraisal of the situation, which is not limited by polarized views, but rather something beyond. And my friend Tina just demonstrated or embodied the being of a VUCA time leader, the being of a wise general, which is be very present, be very open-minded and curious. So she wouldn't stop at where she already knows, but rather what else is there that I need to know so that I can actually take hold. I can actually bring in all stakeholders' interest into consideration. So in that sense, we call this knowing. Actually, it's a way of being for a leader or anyone who's in a leadership role. So it's started when we realize that what we don't know and what we desire to know in new and different ways. So that's the knowing bit that Sun Tzu is talking about in Wise General. So that's why we say 知己知彼，百战不殆. Know yourself and know the others, and in 100 battle, you will always have victory. So that's what you know by knowing yourself and others. And the next thing a wise general should be doing or should be good at is actually employing 是. As you can see, my PPT background is in the Chinese character of 是. It's a very interesting and a very interesting word because it can be translated in so many different ways. I'll give you a few examples. If it's one character words, it can mean force, energy, momentum, potential, dispositions, influence, authority. And sometimes we use a very short phrase to describe what 是 means. And that would be a strategic configuration, strategic advantages, and also it's the potential energy. So in the book about this Sun Tzu's teaching, rule of victory, the Chinese word 是 is translated as the configuration of different forces at play at any given time. And what that means to a leader, it means that the leaders need to have the ability to actually see this energy, how it moves, how it gathers, how it focuses and releases in the natural and the human-made system, and understand how to use that to its advantages. And also employing 是 is the ability about paying attention to the dynamic configuration of power in the system and encouraging it and supporting it so that you can wait for the moment when we say like victory present itself. It's actually means when the impact is mostly focused, so that we can just find victory rather than fighting for it. And by fighting for it, he means that we have to be engaged in severe and utmost conflict and actually damage our own. So in order to do this, we have to be, again, open so we can watch how the energy is evolving and moving, gathers. And also it means that we have to be patient to see more so that we can see more clearly and then take the whole perspective, see all the stakeholders. And it also means that we need to pay attention to small things that we might think that's irrelevant or not as valuable in the past, because things keep changing. And it also requires to think big, in a bigger context, what this might mean, what this kind, who might this influence, who might also bring something that we didn't know before. And it also says all direction goals. We are very much used to a very linear way of looking at how things develop. But here it says it's not just the linear way that works. Sometimes things that goes into a totally different direction might give you a very surprising result. Here is some key points when we are trying to employ shi, because it talks about the qualities of shi. Actually, there's 6 of them: advantage, preponderance, swiftness, not prolonging, seeing people in a larger context, relying on the nature of things, not changing them, and also know that the shi is actually inexhaustible, so do not repeat any means of victory. While you can read these lines yourself, I would like to give 2 simple examples where leaders and leadership roles work. For example, I think most of us would not be unfamiliar with the requirement of facilitating a workshop, for example, especially at the end of year time like this. We're going to think about the next year strategy and what's the new approaches that we'll take up the next year to become a leader in our market, and et cetera, et cetera. What we usually do in the workshop is we would be looking after an outcome of some action plans, especially our CEOs or higher senior leaders, executives would like to have new way of behavior, new actions, new strategies. And the way we do that, which is connected for employing shi, is that we do not go and ask our colleagues, our managers or colleagues directly for their actions, right? What we do is we try to build up a certain kind of shi in the workshop. We ask them to visualize what success would look like first. We get them to talk about it. Sometimes we ask them to draw it so it becomes visual and vivid. Basically, we're asking them to do what we call future as now. So they see the bright, inspiring future first. And then when they have a strong connection to that future picture, we have the shi in the room, which drives them towards that goal. Not without difficulties on the way, but they are more prepared to open their mind to think about all the possibles and impossibles. And then we ask them to write down, so what do you think about some strategies and steps that you can take so that we achieve this? So that's how we work in a workshop about vision or strategy. So that's also using that's one example of seeing people in a larger context, as Sun Tzu put in chapter 5. So one skilled in battle seek it in shi and does not demand it of people, because it's very hard to change people even in long-term aspects, let alone in a few hours. So we build up that atmosphere, that space, that they are allowed to be creative or to be even very brave or borderless. And that's when they can get access to things that they don't believe there is there, or to potentials or power they don't believe they have access to. And the same thing with what we know as design thinking approach right now, because design thinking says we should include all stakeholders in the whether it's a product or a service that we try to design. So we include them into the system. We get to know what they desire, what they want, what's the deeper level needs beneath their articulated wants and don't wants. And that's when we actually can design a product that is a product or a service that would actually attract them and help them to make a purchase decision in the future. So again, all Sun Tzu's teaching is not things that we do not know. It's just we sometimes forgot to look from his perspectives and fall into the nice way of doing things in a habitual way. So you don't have to take any notes of this, because I believe the presentation deck will be distributed after this session. And also the first one, advantage. If it accords with advantage, then act. If it doesn't accord with advantage, then stop. 合于利而动，不合于利而止. So if it, in Chinese is quite short. It also says, it links back to what we've just been talking, the thing about knowing. So how does employing shi look like in real life? This is some strategy that you can take when you're actually facing up to a situation and then you want to employ shi. You can use the strategy of zheng yu qi. In English, it's orthodox and extraordinary, and form and transform, 形与变形, deception, the concept of solid and emptiness, direct and indirect, and even the last strategy is using spy. Orthodox and extraordinary actually says that in order to win, we actually start planning our victory from the level of mindset. Use what's normal and what's predictable, expected to start engaging, and then use the surprising and unpredictable part to gain victory. A very good example of using this in daily life would be the story of Marla Collins. If any of you are in the domain of education, you might have heard this name before. So she's a Black American lady. She did such an extraordinary job in teaching that she was twice offered the position of Ministry of Education by President Reagan and later on President Bush Senior. Bush Senior. So what she did was extraordinary because she was actually teaching in Chicago, one of the poorest districts in Chicago, where it's very hard to keep the children there in classroom and learning because of a lot of issues in the district, like drugs and gangs, the gang thing, the mafia thing. So, but she has managed to help a lot of Black children to actually stay in classroom. And one of the things she used is she continuously seek advantages in them, seek strengths in them. She appreciates what the kids already have. And here's the way she did it so uniquely. So every time she found children are acting up and not really coming to the class, she will give a very special punishment to the kids. And the punishment will be that they have to use 100 different words to share with Miss Marla Collins what's so special about them. So what's the word? Advantages about them, that they have to do the things they just did, and they have to go in an alphabetic order. So you have to start with A and then followed with the word that begins with the letter B, and so on and so on. So she keeps doing this until the children got so tired and then say, oh, okay, Miss Collins, I will not do it ever again. So she shared in her book called The Marla Collins Way that she just loves kids. And what I see her did, which is so unexpected, is that she changed the image about themselves. The children have an image about themselves of being hopeless. I can't learn. Learning is so hard to me. She managed to change that mindset and that image in themselves by doing by taking up a very unexpected, surprising approach of appreciating yourself, trusting yourself, and telling themselves that they can actually do anything if they ever set their mind to. Considering time, I wouldn't give you more examples for every strategies, but for form and transformation, you can think about the things that's very common in life, like we have the flyovers, so that cars are going to different directions may follow the different lanes as they see fit, and also the speed bumps that we have on the street, so that cars would slow down. So in simple words, form and formation is just to take a position, shape the ground, and put out a proposition, and to contain possibilities, and then just simply wait to allow other possibilities to evolve in relation of the changing situation. And if you want to know more about the other 4 strategies, you can go and read it in the book, Rule of Victory, which is available now. And the last thing a wise general would do is what we call finding victory. Now, the interesting thing here is that the word find victory rather than fight for victory. So what it means is that Sun Tzu believed that victory can be known, but not made. And what he is actually saying is that we cannot control or manipulate people. This is talking about leadership situations. And we cannot assert power over people, but rather the effective behaviors of leaders, of wise general, would arise when we are aware that we are part of the interconnectedness that we are all in. And using knowing and employing shi, we will actually see the moment that victory presents itself, and that's the moment that we will take action and grasp the victory that we've been working for. So that's what he means by therefore the victorious military is first victorious, and after that does battle. And this is actually in accordance with what Stephen Covey said when he said, begin with the end in mind. So in order to win, we have to first make the victory. The victory is first won in our mind rather than action. And we take on the perspectives of a victorious army, and then we just carry out the thing that the victory armies would do. Because the perspective of struggle rather than victory often invites conflicts and more trouble, where an orientation towards beyond the conventional things or the traditional ways, the victory methods that we used before would cause on the condition that leads us to a new found victory. So what finding victory is really about is discovering creative and effective solutions that were not previously evident or available. That's when opportunities arrive. But these opportunities do not arise from nowhere. It's from the previous hard work we've done through knowing and employing shi, so that we can achieve our goals without resorting to aggression or engendering further conflict. So the real victory that Sun Tzu is looking after, and every leaders nowadays is seeking, is a victory that in the long term wouldn't cause more conflict. And that is the victory that's worth working for. So that's the strategy about a wise general. And the last question is, how do we become that wise general? What do we need to do? And here's a very simple summary of how: is by holding these what we call 5 stances of a VUCA time leader. That is to be aware of yourselves and others, be aware of your own value system and their value system, their needs and your own needs, and also being comprehensive. The comprehensive here is what we're referring to is being comprehensive, seeing both the limitation a situation has and also the possibility that it is providing to you. And on that basis, there's also being affirmative, that's acknowledging and saying yes to both the chaos and order. Actually, in fact, in Sun Tzu's book, he also says chaos comes from order. It says something that we can't hold too tight on what is order. If we hold on too tight and we do not allow other perspectives to come in, then we create new chaos. Sorry. And the last thing is, sorry, I just lost my last slide. And also in doing this, there's being ethical and courageous, meaning that we are very clear with the obligations, and also we're very clear with the freedom in our choices. And we also needs to stay courage and lead from the edge, as also mentioned by Dr. Otto Scharmann in his new book, The U Theory, by talking about learning from the emergent future and acting and lead from the edge. I think that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for listening. Okay. Sorry, Farida, I just see your message. We go a little bit exceeding the time. Okay, this is the end of my presentation. How do I do now? I just exit. Farida.
Hello, everyone.
Okay.
This is Liu Mengdi. Just call me Mandy for short. I'm sorry that I missed the very beginning of your lecture. And please allow me to introduce our lecturer, Sharon Lee.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
I'm sorry. Sharon Lee graduated from Chinese Academy of Science, majored in organizational management psychology. She is a certified professional facilitator of International Association of Facilitators, IAF, ICF certified coach, NASA 4D Excellence Team System certified instructor, and NLP practitioner. And Sharon has been working for several global multinational Fortune 500 companies, including industry leaders from Lufthansa, Henkel in Germany, Deloitte in the UK, Capgemini in France, and Ericsson in Sweden. She is currently a freelance facilitator and a leadership team development coach. Her main clients include China Mobile, Unicom Telecom, Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, Volkswagen, etc. And Here, the next is our lecturer, Dr. William. And is anyone have some questions to ask?
Yeah, I'm also looking at the chat zone for possible questions. And it's interesting that I can't see all the things people are. Okay. Sorry about the technical things. And sorry if I missed all your kind reminders because I'm just looking at my own PPT deck. I can't see the second screen on my desktop. Sorry about that.
Okay, if there's nobody to ask a question, let's welcome the next lecturer. And please allow me to introduce Dr. William to us. Dr. William Quinn Young has over 20-year experience in people and organization development and project management. He worked for Mercer, first-rank HR consulting firm, MDS, MBTI certification provider, and the Holysys Group, NASDAQ-listed company. He is also a leadership coach for EMBA students at Robert H. Smith School of Business at University of Maryland. Dr. William currently specializes in helping clients improve organization effectiveness via vertical leadership development and organizational development. He has various experience in psychometric instruments, competence modeling, leadership assessment and development, and organization dynamic analysis. A short list of his current clients include Ernst & Young, Ericsson, Intel, SAP, Airbus Tianjin, Samsung, Microsoft, W.L. Gore, Medtronic, Audi, BMW, GM and Volkswagen, and Daimler. Dr. William was awarded a PhD in work psychology by the University of Sheffield, UK. He's also received a master's degree in industrial and organizational psychology, Chinese Academy of Sciences, and a master's degree in computer science, University of Science and Technology of China. He's a master trainer of MBTI certification program and a certified practitioner of MBTI, Pharaoh B, Leadership Agility, and LEA. William is an associate certified coach awarded by International Coach Federation, ICF. He is certified logo series play facilitator, Tavistock organization and system transition consultant. Now let's applaud and give the floor to Dr. William. Dr. William, please unmute your.
So,
Yes.
okay, so everyone can hear me now? Okay, so does anyone can see my PPT now? Okay, thank you, Mandy, for your instruction. And it's my pleasure to be here to share of some of my ideas. And it's also my honor following Sharon. Sharon is my friend. We're both based in Beijing. So my topic is about identifying organization dynamics and facilitating organization transformation. I will, my lecture divided into 4 parts. What is our organization dynamics? Some principles of group level and case study, and why it is important. Let's start with the first point. Professor Robert Keegan, in his book, Everyone Culture, some of you have maybe have read it. She describes that in an ordinary organization, most people are doing a second job no one is paying them for. Most people are spending time and energy covering up their weakness, managing other people's impression of them, showing themselves to their best advantage, playing politics, hiding their inadequacies, hiding their uncertainties, hiding their limitations, hiding. Additionally, another psychologist, Wilfred Bion, from UK, in his book Experiences in Group, he also finds that group has such dual aspect. He mentions that group have a manifest overt aspect and a latent covert aspect. The manifest aspect is the work group, a level of functioning at which members consciously pursue agreed upon objectives and work towards the completion of tasks. The combination of hidden agendas of group members constitutes the latent aspect of group life, which is called the basic assumption group. This group consists of unconscious wishes, fears, defenses, fantasies, impulses, and projections. As HR and OD people, you may be familiar with this iceberg model on individual level. On group level and organizational level, it is the same. At the surface of the water, it is the visible part. It consists of consciousness with behaviors, words, actions, and body languages which are visible. And under the water, it is invisible part. It is driven by unconsciousness, including dreams, fears, anxieties, unconscious conflict, trauma, archetypes. So from organization dynamics perspective, a system, an organization has its own life, consisting of both conscious and unconscious parts. Both parts are mirroring with each other. Organization dynamics approach treats the organization and individuals as whole system, employing multiple activities to clarify boundary, authority, role, task, which is called BART, and utilizing psychodynamics as rich resources for organization development. It is also called as system psychodynamic approach in some academic articles. For myself, I prefer the word using by Rolf Stacey, Susan Long. It is the organization dynamic. I think it's more close to the business world. Some of you may see this cartoon. It is a hero in the organization. He caught someone who is a troublemaker, and he says, "So who's behind all my problems?" That is himself. In terms of leadership development, we call it self-awareness. It is reasonable. However, from organization dynamic perspective, it is not enough. Organization dynamics approach pays attention to the blue curtain behind these two figures. A question should be asked. You think yourself are behind all your problems. However, what is behind you? What drives you to play the role as a problem maker? It is all about organization dynamics. There are many organization development interventions are introduced into Chinese business organizations. I list them here in this framework. There are two dimensions. The first dimension is from the surface to the bottom, just like the iceberg you have seen above. And another dimension is from the individual level to the organizational level. So at the surface, there are many intervention approaches, such as qualification, succession plan, competency model at the individual extreme, and organization structure design, BPR, some work design approach such as holacracy on the organization extreme. So all this is building up the organization infrastructure. So I call it hard OD. If we go a little bit deeper, we will find other method and approaches. Executive coaching, for example, at the individual extreme, and MVP, mission, vision, purpose clarification, and organizational culture shaping, technology of participants, which means facilitation on the organizational level. So all this is about improve the soil of organization. I call it soft OD, but that is not the whole story. There are some interventions at the very bottom of the organization, personal psychodynamics. Manfred Case de Forest write a lot of book and articles on this. On the group level, there are group process theory, which is written by Wilfred Bion. And on the organizational level, there are social technology system, and which is TRIST, written by TRIST, and organization complexity response theory. It is written by Rolf Stacey. So all these is about the invisible part, the very bottom of the organization. So I call it implicit OD. Since organization dynamic is a big body of knowledge, today, due to the limited time, I can only introduce some basic principles on the group level. The philosopher Schopenhauer described a tale about the dilemmas faced by hedgehogs during winter. The animal tried to get close to one another when it grew cold and share their body heat. However, once they did so, they hurt each other with their spines, so they moved away from each other to be more comfortable. However, the cold drew them together again, and the same thing happened. At last, after a great deal of uncomfortable handling and chilly dispersing, the hedgehogs discovered they are best off remaining at a little distance from one another. It is called hedgehog effect. It is quite the same situation when a person is put into group. Wells mentions that the central issue for individuals when joining or participating in groups is the tension generated by unconscious fears of being engulfed, obliterated by the group at one extreme, and becoming a person in isolation from the group at the other extreme. So there are many suppressed emotions in the organization: depression, anxiety, anger, vulnerability, jealousy, shame. All this information, all these emotions you have already find is unhappy emotion. They are not that happy emotion. They are not so positive. Why? Because positive emotion is encouraged to be expressed in the organization, but this negative emotion is not allowed to be expressed in the organization. They are suppressed. Due to there are many suppressed emotion, people have to find some defense mechanisms to keep himself or herself avoid the uncomfortable feeling about these negative emotions. So there are many defense mechanisms: splitting, projection, transference, countertransference, deny, idealization, identification, acknowledgement, and so on. So when the group is driven by these defense mechanisms, it is uh, working based on basic assumption. There are 5 basic assumptions are identified by researchers from 1940, which are dependency, fight and flight, pairing, oneness, and meanness. So from the organization dynamics perspective, uh, there are some principles. Group is a whole system. Group has a life of its own only as a consequence of the fantasies and projections of its members. The group uses its members in the service of its primary task. The behavior of any group members at any moment is the expression of his or her own needs, history, and behavior patterns, and is also the needs, history, and behavior patterns of the group. Whatever the group is doing or talking about, the group is always talking about itself, reflecting itself. So these are some knowledge of the organization dynamics. Due to the time limitation, I cannot explain it in details. If you are interested, you may find some books from the Wilfred Bion and other researchers to have a look. Today, I will introduce a case study, and through this case study to explain how the organization dynamic approach can be used in an organization. It makes it easier for you to understand the theory, maybe. The case I would like to present is about Company A. Company A is a software outsourcing company. In the first 4 years, the company expands rapidly and business grows very fast. It is headquartered in Beijing. The company employs 400 people in 5 regions across the country and provides outsourcing services to head companies in a variety of industries. But in recent 2 years, the company's profit have declined significantly. Since last year, the company has been planning to develop a blockbuster alternative to the on-site service, which it hopes will boost its profits. This actually is a major transformation of the company, and in the practice, it is fraught with difficulties. First of all, on-site project managers are unable to take charge and dare not communicate directly with the powerful clients or handle them effectively, which often leads to the project delay. Secondly, the personnel in various places rush at each project, difficult to transfer and integrate into product R&D team. The product development progress is slow. Thirdly, the CEO and other executives have to travel from site to site to dealing with clients and are exhausted. This leads to tension between superior and subordinates, low team morale, and sometimes complaint about each other. Faced with such situation, management has also discussed and taken measures. The management asks the HR department to carry out communication skill training for the project manager, hoping to improve the communication ability between the project manager and the clients. But the effect was limited. The training of delegation is also conducted. for executives, but the ability of subordinates is still not satisfying. The executives still have to go from site to site. In response to the frequent conflicts between the on-site project members and the headquarters, the company has organized team collaboration training, but this phenomenon seems to be getting worse. On several occasions, during the meeting with GM of the client, the project manager stands up for the client, which makes the CEO of company A very embarrassed. The company's emphasis on positive energy, with management criticizing individual employees for their complaints, which seem to be getting some control. Given these problems and the fact that they are hard to change, the CEO feels that there must be a way to strengthen the team cohesion and enhance the ability of middle managers. So we are, as consultants, are invited into this organization to deal with these problems. We designed a 3-day workshop following organization dynamic theories. There are many exercises within these 3 days. It is the toughest of transition. So let me explain a little bit about these activities. Embody exercise. The purpose of embody exercise is to guide participants to withdraw their attention through activities, to pay attention to their state in the system and environment, and to let the members of organization see themselves and see the system. Life space activity. The purpose of this activity is to create a safe psychological space for participants to explore their multiple roles as a whole person and to have an in-depth understanding of other members as a whole person and to enhance the bottom connection with each other. In the small study group, members are divided into several groups to observe, experience, and explore the interpersonal interaction, group dynamics, and the development or change of a group from the perspective of group as a whole. In a large study group, members sit around in a specific form to observe and experience, explore the emotion feelings, interaction characteristics, communication patterns of all members in the context of VUCA from a perspective of organization as a whole. In the organization in mind activity, members present their fantasies about the organization through paintings. The differences are exploited and underlying assumptions are clarified to form the learning of organization reality. Intergroup activity makes members divided into several groups to explore the relationship and relevance between each group and the whole organization. Review and application part. Members are divided into several groups, and under the guidance of consultant, they reflect about their role in current activities, daily life, and apply these learnings to the work systems. So there are many themes emerge from these 3-day workshops. I will introduce 3 main themes here. The first theme is authority. Let's see what happened in the workshop. In a large study group, one participant talks about growing up in a difficult relationship with his parents and now his isolation from them. Elder members talked about their feeling about raising children. At this point, one member talks about client daddy. I don't know whether it is only in China have this word. It is about the relationship between the client and supplier. it presents a kind of ironic to present the power of the client in this relationship. So participants begin to have a long discussion about their relationship with client. During this discussion, the participants realize that relationship with the client depends on how to mobilize one's internal authority. In the following large study group, some participants begin to practice mobilizing the internal authority. For example, some of them try to argue with leaders for additional resources and no longer blindly agree to requests from colleagues, but stick to their own boundaries. However, many members from senior management team are dissatisfied with their subordinates' personal will and insubordination, buck parsing, bargaining between different parts. The management team is not so happy. In a small study group, non-subject discussion are always initiated by CEO. The consultant stops him and invites him to be silent for 10 minutes so he could have a chance to observe and experience what would happen when he stepped back to give the team some space and opportunity. After the CEO keeps silence for a while, the participants try to start speaking up and gradually become proactive and enthusiastic. In the review and application session, the senior management team reflects that if middle manager could mobilize their internal authorities, they can communicate with clients on an equal basis and promote the smooth progress of the project. But on the other hand, one's own authority of senior management could also be challenged. So the consultant helps the participant to experience and be aware that middle managers are afraid of authority and start to directly confront the authority, but they lost their footing. Correspondingly, senior management is afraid of loss of authority and takes subordinates' incompetence as an excuse to hold the position of authority. These two forces entwined, forming an endless cycle in which the CEO and other executives are consumed in dealing with clients on various sites, instead of being able to move on to strategic action that are more important to the company. So the company has some result after the workshop. After the workshop, a series changes take place in the company. For middle managers, they can gradually mobilize their internal authority, and they gradually realize that when each individual exercises internal authority, there is a process of negotiation. Within the organization, they are able to negotiate with departments and even express their true point of view to senior executives. Outside the organization, they can communicate with clients on equal basis. The CEO and other executives are relieved from the hectic pace of dealing with clients. To the CEO's surprise, the result of serving clients are improved. From the perspective of senior executives, they once feel worried and anxious when subordinates can mobilize their internal authority and are no longer as obedient as before. Through the reflection after the workshop, these executives realize that they need to re-explore their own resources of authority. The executive realizes that his or her own sense of authority does not depend on the obedience of one's subordinates, but on the mobilization of one's authority to take the management role. Only when the middle manager do not treat the CEO as the daddy within the organization can exercise the internal authority, can they not treat the client as the daddy on site and mobilize their internal authority to conduct equal dialogue and achieve win-win solution, a win-win situation? The second theme is about identity. What's happened in the workshop? In large study group, participants mentioned that each project team work on site of the client all year round. The employees feels that they were both project member and the diplomatic ambassador of Company A. Sometimes they unconsciously act as the client's lobbyists for Company A. There are also project managers who mention that the clients they serve are the top companies in the industry, and they are good at creating organization culture. One project manager mentions, on the client side for a long time, I feel very attracted by the culture. Sometimes a little bit dazed. I don't know which company